This is pre-recorded, so if it goes over an hour, I will stream it through a new way that I figured out that I can do, and there will be two of me on the stream. All right. This is a farmhouse, we have cluster business, and this time of year is bad. We are so very sorry, there is little we can do. She didn't beg or not love. She didn't stay when things got tough. I told a lie, she got mad. She wasn't there when things got bad. I never ever saw the northern lights. Never really heard of butterflies. Never ever saw the stars so bright. And in the farmhouse it's be alright, 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 alright. Woke this morning to a stinging lash. Every man has found the ash. Each betrayal begins with trust. Every man returns to dust. Don't ever saw the northern lights. Never really heard of butterflies. Never ever saw the stars so bright. In the farmhouse to be alright, 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 alright. I hope everybody's having a good day so far. June 15th, 2023 is going to be a very, I don't know the word for it. I don't really want to say depressing because I don't want to put that energy out there, but that's really the best word I can think of for it, for me personally. But for everybody that's trying to put light and love out into the atmosphere on that day, more power to you. I just don't have it in me, and I'm a very positive person, but that day's just gonna be a drag. But okay, so Summer Moon Utah Wells is missing from the Beech Creek community of Hawkins County, Tennessee. These are some of the surrounding areas surrounding where Summer is from and where she went missing from. Kingsport, Blountville, Bluff City, Piney Flats, Gray, Elizabethtown, Johnson City, Chuckey, Unicoi, Irwin, Roan Mountain, Baileyton, Rogersville, Bulls Gap, Greenville, Bean Station, Morristown, Jefferson City, Rutledge, Tazewell. There's Gate City, Abingdon, there's Bristol. There's a lot more actually that are not listed on here too. I can't think of them off the top of my head. But okay. So it's like the Tri-Cities area that's close as well. Summer lived at 110 Ben Hill Road in the Beech Creek community of Hawkins County, Tennessee. Let me show you Ben Hill Road on a map where Summer lived, so you get the image in your head of Summer's surroundings. Let's let it load here. All right. Sorry, it takes me to an ad after the app's been open for so long. There's like an ad every so many minutes. Now look, you see all this mountainous terrain. Um, yeah, so Tim Coop and TBI, Hawkins County, everybody that said there's very rough, rugged, mountainous terrain surrounding Summers' home, they're not kidding. So that's Simpson Loop up here, and then Simpson Road is down right here, I think. Simpson Road's down here somewhere, and this is Simpson Loop up here. 347, that'd be Beech Creek. There's Summer's house right here. We'll zoom in on it a little bit here. All right, you see the bus. There's the driveway. Here it comes out to Ben Hill. There's the bus right here. Okay. Then you go over this way. All right. I'm sure a lot of you know whose property this is here. And there's Beech Creek right here. There's the cemetery, that Morrison Cemetery, across the street from Beech Creek. Like basically right there on Ben Hill, like, you know, right off of Ben Hill. All this forested, dense forested area directly surrounding these roads here. I mean, you really can't even see Ben Hill Road, really, because there's so many trees. There's Limestone Branch over here. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty dense. It's pretty rugged. There's Simpson Road. Candace allegedly took Ben Hill all the way back in the holler as far as she could go. So I wonder how far back she went. Look at all this back here. I mean, it's just, you know, there's so much, it's so much different down inside those trees, but from up here, it's just looks like broccoli, you know, like it's just, you can't see what's down in those trees, but it's thick, it's dense. There's ridges and the creeks that run through, and there's a lot of wildlife, but I'm not saying I think any of it, the wildlife had gotten to Summer, because I think there would be evidence of that. But I'm just saying there's it's very dangerous is my point. It's a dangerous area for a little 5-year-old girl to have gotten lost in, if she did get lost out there. That's very dangerous. And I thought maybe that could be the reason for the Amber Alert, once they realized how actually dangerous it was around there. And if she really did wander off and get out of there on her own, then maybe they were thinking, okay, this is probably a good time to just issue an Amber Alert. But at the same time, that doesn't really make sense, because if they thought she was still in there and that the reason they issued it was because it was so dangerous, but it was the next level alert, that doesn't really make sense, because I mean, they didn't let the public help search, and that's an alert to go out to the public, and they put that alert out making people think that she was been abducted, because that's what an Amber Alert's for. So people are going to be looking as if she was abducted, looking elsewhere for her, not just in those trees. So I don't know. I can't really think of a reason. I mean, we don't know what they know. But okay. So, yep, look at all that. It's just so dense. It's really in the middle of nowhere. All right. And it takes a while to get into a town from around there. You're going to be driving for a good 20 minutes to get into town. All right. Let me exit out of this ad. All right. So you can get to Ohio from Summer's home in 4 hours. You can get to the Georgia-North Carolina border or into Kentucky in just 3 hours, and you can be in Virginia in just a half an hour. So just think about that, how quickly Summer could have been out of the state, completely out of Tennessee. And they were working with other states like Ohio. I think they were working with Georgia and the Carolinas, I believe. They weren't, I never heard about Kentucky, but maybe they were working with Kentucky. I remember not hearing it at first and being really surprised, but maybe that ended up coming into play. Summer Moon Utah Wells, missing since June 15th, 2021. 7 years old. Date of birth, February 4th, 2016. She went missing when she was 5. She has blonde hair, which was shaved at the time of her disappearance. Blue eyes, and she was reported as 3 feet tall and 40 pounds, though she was likely closer to 4 feet tall when she went missing, and she was very thin, so she could have likely been 40 pounds. Decay on upper front teeth at missing date. Missing from rural Rogersville, Tennessee, in the Beech Creek Community of Hawkins County. Last seen in the 100 block of Ben Hill Road in the Beech Creek Community, outside of her home, wearing a pink shirt and gray pants and believed to be barefoot. Summer is a now 7-year-old Tennessee child who has been missing since June 15th, 2021, at 5 years old, though she was initially reported as 4 by her parents. Her parents, mother Candace Bly and father Donald Wells, have faced a great deal of scrutiny, according to this article I found on heavy.com, which I was new to. Most of us can probably agree that they have brought on this on themselves, unfortunately. Um, Dr. Phil aired a 2-episode series in November of 2021 on Summer's disappearance. Summer has been missing for 2 years now after vanishing without a trace. No sign of abduction, no sign of anything that we know of. The only thing we know is TBI has not informed the public that Don and Candace think Summer was abducted, and they say nobody wants her found more than they do, meaning more than the TBI does. And whatever updates they've published to the TBI newsroom on tbinewsroom.com. I mean, that's really all we know. It's not a lot. We don't know what law enforcement has. They're staying extremely tight-lipped, as we all know, and they're not giving a 2-year update. On June 15th, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation first tweeted about Summer's disappearance in 2021, writing, "Endangered child alert. We need your help to find 4-year-old Summer Moon Utah Wells missing from Rogersville, the Beech Creek community of Hawkins County near Rogersville. If you see her, please call the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office at 423-272-7121 or the TBI at 1-800-TBI-FIND. TBI also released a series of photos of Summer. The TBI then updated its alert to say Summer was 5. Side note, if you visit findsummerwells.com, ran by Tim Mullen, you will see a link to submit tips. Please do not submit tips to the PI company. Those tips don't even go to the PIs themselves, anyways. They go to the company itself. I would not trust it. I'm not hating on them or saying they're shady. I'm saying it is shady to report tips if they are credible to anyone but the law enforcement on Summer's case at the provided phone numbers and email address. It's shady to direct so many people to do that. Any credible tips should be reported directly to 1-800 TBI Find, the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office, or emailed to tips@tbi.tn.gov. The heartbreaking reality is Summer's parents didn't make sure the authorities helping them to locate their own missing daughter, Summer, had the correct information about her. This has been very frustrating for law enforcement, and we all know this. We've all said it. But when it comes down to it, the people that Summer needs to be advocating for her the most are turning down helping hands for her that are reaching out to them for Summer. The only hands they're grabbing at are the ones helping them by protecting them from having to answer to June 15th, 2021, it seems, or anything involving Summer. But why? If we should be looking at all possibilities as everything is on the table, last we knew, which could be different by now because that was a while ago when we heard that. We have to look at the possibility that Summer was abducted or wandered off. And even no matter what we think of the parents, we should look at all possibilities. And maybe Summer was even abducted after she wandered off. Maybe she was gone for a lot longer than Candace is saying that she was. I don't believe she wandered off or was abducted at all unless it was by someone that Don and Candace or Grandma knew, and it happened a lot earlier on in the day. But it's a possibility. But if I'm to consider that they're telling the truth, then why are we getting all this guilty behavior from Don and Candace and Grandma? Do they know who has taken Summer if someone has abducted her? Are they afraid of them? Are they just afraid of getting in trouble themselves? How else would they be sure that Summer was abducted unless they knew who it was or why it happened? And why can't they seem to remember exactly what was going on, even roughly around 4 to 6 p.m.? Is that on purpose? Don says he was at work in Jonesboro at the Meadows. Um, that he didn't get home till around 7 p.m. when the police began to arrive, which is when Candace was allegedly getting back from driving down the holler when she was on the phone with Don. On Dr. Phil, Don states that Candace called him at 5:30 to tell him Summer was missing. Why all the 5:30, 6:30 confusion? Because the 911 call came in around 6:30. It was like 6:28, I think. 911 was called just before 6:30, and Don and Candace was looking for Summer for about 10 minutes. Supposedly, that's what they said on the dispatch. Ronnie Lawson said the time varies because they were searching for Summer themselves. So maybe they were looking for Summer for an hour before calling 911. Maybe it really was 5:30. Maybe Candace really did call Don at 5:30 and told him she couldn't find Summer, and they waited an hour before calling 911, and maybe they didn't even realize it was that long. Remember Jenna? Jenna, Candace's friend, that she now has a YouTube page. Jenna says Candace says Don was home around 3 to 3:30 on June 15th. Um, Now, I don't know why she would doctor something up like that, make something up like that. She seemed cool to me. I tend to give a lot of people the benefit of the doubt a lot of times, especially women for some reason. Um, when, yeah, I mean, in certain situations, um, because I obviously I'm biased, I'm it's just how it is. I just feel bad for people, and I always give everybody the benefit of the doubt. And I felt like Jenna was cool, and I I listened to what she said and I believe what she says. I don't think she would just come out and lie for some malicious reason. But there are screenshots of those texts that Jenna and Candace were sending to each other about Don coming home at 3 or 3:30 on June 15th from work, coming home early. Those are on Nature Lover's channel. If you go over to Nature Lover, type in Nature Lover Summer Wells on YouTube, and her page will pop right up. And I'll put her link in the chat. Also, not so fun facts to remember about Candace. Side note, Candace says she has suspicions about Don having something to do with Summer's disappearance at one point. So keep that in mind. Don also says a lot of shady things about Candace, as like she makes the wrong friends and she's going down, things like that. And also, Candace did not defend Don or say anything along the lines of, oh, he would never do that, how terrible, nothing like that. When Ernie was telling her that Don was showering with Summer, trigger warning, sorry, I really should have put a trigger warning at the beginning of this. And I not sure that I put it on the banner, but we should probably drop a trigger warning in the chat, and I should probably put one on the banner too, because hey, this stuff is not it's sensitive. It's very sensitive, and it could trigger a lot of people. All right. Sorry about that, y'all. I just wanted to make sure I put a trigger warning out there before I go any further, because I'm not sure exactly. I don't remember what all exactly is in my notes, and I'm always reading off of notes. I always take like 50 pages of notes, and then I read them off and add my commentary as I go. But so, anyways, yeah, Candace, she said she had her suspicions about Dawn and all that. And also, when Ernie was telling her that Dawn was showering with Summer, he was making it out to be that Dawn was being grossly inappropriate with Summer in the shower. He was making it out to be that it was some kind of essay going on, and people in the chat were all talking about it too. And it was really disturbing. And Candace acted like she was so disturbed and disgusted over it. And she acted like she was going to throw up. And she was so upset and hurt over it. And she acted like she believed it. And she was actually going along with it. And her reaction never sat right with me, like at all. It turns my stomach literally right now talking about it. It's deeply disturbing. Summer is a very real 7-year-old little girl that is still missing. This is her daughter that they're talking about, and she's still with this man that she actually was going along with, believing these things about. And Summer has missed so much over the last 2 years: birthdays, holidays, school, friends, summertime, everything. But I will say it's a good thing that some of the things that she's missed, like this entire train wreck that her parents have presented to us on YouTube, can you imagine how bad it was for those children? She deserves to be with a loving and caring family. That's my point. And her parents are talking like this about Summer. It's so very concerning and upsetting. That whole thing on Ernie's channel, or whatever channel he was on when that happened, it was horrifying for Summer and for her brothers. Whatever has happened in that home on 110 on that hill, I don't know. I can't say, but I think pictures say a lot and videos say a lot. I think watching people's patterns of behavior over time says a lot. How people react to things says a lot. And I feel really freaking bad for Summer Moon Utah Wells and her brothers. I probably would have felt bad for Candace when she was a child too, but I feel a hell of a lot worse for Summer. And that's an understatement. And Candace is grown now, and you're supposed to want better for your children, especially after such an epic failure with your first set of children. And that goes for Don too. I think about Summer every single day, and I just can't ever figure out why her parents would act this way and allow each other to act this way without protest and without a second thought, other than they're guilty or they just plain don't care about Summer in reality when it really comes down to it. And that's really freaking sad, but it's true, one or the other, or both, in my opinion. They're guilty or they just don't freaking care. And can you really blame me for thinking that? If you've been here since the Amber Alert went out, you've been around long enough to know by now, if you've been paying any attention at all, you know what I mean. Whether you agree with how I feel or not is another thing altogether, but you can't tell me if you have been around this whole time since June 16th, 2021, when the Amber Alert went out, or maybe even before that if you're local and you saw the Endangered Child Alert on the 15th, which actually it went out at midnight, I think on the 16th, but maybe you were around on the 15th and you heard about it that evening, like anyone in the holler. Um, but you know what I mean, right? And you know what I mean when I refer to Don and Candace's guilty behavior, I mean. And you must know at least one good example, if not three or more, of their guilty behavior. You know that Don and Candace has said and done a lot of things to make themselves sound and look guilty. Don even says Candace's worst mistake was that she might have made some of the wrong friends, which she would never do something shady like not take Summer to the hospital or not call an ambulance if there was an accident, right? Well, we all know that actually Candace is shady, and that only throws shade at Candace by Don saying that, because it makes it sound like Candace had shady people over around the children. Did one of them possibly cause Summer being missing? If they are guilty of Summer being missing and possibly, trigger warning, murdered or hidden by them for whatever other reason, how dare them show their face on here at all? I could never take that chance in supporting them, knowing there's such a good chance that they have done something awful to Summer and maybe even their other children. Their treatment of their grandson does not reflect on them well, and that's when they're live on YouTube. Imagine how they talk in front of their kids and their grandkids, for that matter, before all this mess, when there was not a live crowd on the internet listening. I can't take the chance on supporting them, knowing they are so highly likely involved in Summer's disappearance. I think some people forget it's Summer. It's a little, she was 5 years old, and you're defending them? Are you kidding me? They're grown. Summer was completely helpless, defenseless. Um, if they're not totally responsible for it, then I don't attack them, because what if they're not totally responsible for whatever happened to Summer? There's no solid proof. So I'm not going to attack them, but I'm sure going to say how I feel about them and what my opinion is. Um, there's only speculation based on what we observe and know. I mean, what we know in our lives, from our experience, and what we observe and how we take that based on our experience in life. And then you hear everybody talking about it, all these hundreds of people, and what they might have think might have happened. And some days I think maybe law enforcement should listen to YouTube a little bit, just if they don't have anything. But if they do, then obviously that's a whole nother ballgame. And I think that they do. But I mean, there have been days where I'm like, dude, I really hope law enforcement heard that, you know, for real. Um, I feel that Don and Candace's love and sympathy for Summer doesn't seem genuine. I feel like Grandma hasn't even shown any love or sympathy for Summer, and none of their love or sympathy that they have shown for her has ever felt genuine to me. I'm not sorry that I feel that way, but I'm also not happy that I feel that way. There is a lack of urgency and a sense that they have already given up hope for Summer even being alive since day one. It sucks to have to think a little girl, Summer, has parents that don't truly want her found or have no fire under their asses to have her be found, whatever their reasons may be, whether it's because they're guilty in one way or another. I'm not saying they have taken Summer's life. I'm saying I think they know what happened on June 15th, 2021. And I think it is a possibility that they have done that. It's horrendous to think about, but it's unfortunately just what it is. Um, that it crosses my mind. I mean, how can it not? How can you honestly tell me that you haven't really thought that there was a chance that Don and Candace could have actually harmed Summer in such a way that it caused her to be missing, and that maybe she's really not missing, she's hidden, and it's because of them? That's what I think. That's just my opinion. I'm glad we all don't think the same. But I'm just saying it just really blows my mind that it doesn't even cross some people's mind. Like they're like, no, they would never. And it's like, you really think you know them though? I mean, I don't know. I think at least one of them, if not both of them, know by now, and probably both of them and grandma too, knows where Summer is and why she was missing, or at least where she was at one point on June 15th, 2021 after 6:30 p.m. If someone has Summer and they're hiding her from the world, do you really think that Dawn and Candace, her own mother and father, do not have any clue who that person could possibly be? Were they too messed up to know who all was up and down from their hill, to know all the potential suspects? Or is it that Don and Candace and Grandma never had anyone over at all? They were just a quiet family that didn't socialize or have people over or get drugs from any elusive people at any shady places. They just stayed home and kept completely to themselves, because I know that's not true. I don't know Don or Candace, but I know they had people in and out of that house and up and down off that hill. I just can't see it any other way. And drugs don't just grow out of the ground, they're manufactured and distributed. So, where did they get those? And yes, marijuana grows out of the ground, but that's not drugs, that's medicine. There's a difference. So, where did they get their drugs? That'd be a good place to start. And looking for Summer, if she truly was abducted by someone they know that they won't disclose to anyone, or if they truly think she was abducted and they have no freaking clue who it was, well, that would be a great place to start, right? Why? Um, I don't know why they would not. It's time for full transparency, in my opinion. I think it's going to take something extremely drastic to get the truth out of Don or Candace or Grandma for that matter. It's going to take a lot of constant and consistent pressure from the law and the public, and unfortunately, a lot of patience. So we know Don and Candace had people in and out of 110. In my opinion, it was probably not far off from a trap house or a flop house or something along those lines. And that's just my opinion. That's based on from, my observations and speculation based on my experience in my own life. Have they told law enforcement who these people all are that have been hanging around them directly leading up to Summer's disappearance? People, even if it would get them in some kind of trouble, have they really told them everybody? People that they visited for drugs, people that came to them for drugs. They don't have to say that's what they were there for if they're afraid of getting in trouble, but they should. Their daughter is missing, and if they truly think there is a possibility that someone has abducted Summer, I would surely hope with everything in me that they've told every single name of all the people they messed with for real leading up to June 15th. And the dirtier the deed, the more they need to spill the beans, because any lucrative business that they were involved in prior to Summer's disappearance should not be left out because, for all we know, the people involved could be more likely to have had something to do with abducting and or harming a child than, say, someone in their church or someone that they might have passed by at the store. But again, then you never know. And all angles should be looked at, including the church and anyone that filmed for them. Um, a wolf in sheep's clothing usually is the culprit. It's hard to tell in this case because there seems to be so many of them. And it's true, monsters don't actually look scary most of the time. Sometimes they do, but you never know what's going on in someone's head. There's also people around like Frank Light who were around and near the area on and around June 15th, 2021, who I guarantee have been looked into, but who knows? Um, who knows who they may have had at their house that they haven't said? Maybe Frank Light had somebody hanging out at his house that could have saw Summer, but there's still no sign of that, and nobody's been caught yet. And they sure canvassed the area pretty quickly and had aircraft and everything. And I mean, they were stopping cars. They were eventually setting up roadblocks. I mean, I don't understand how somebody could have, unless it happened a lot earlier in the day than Candace is saying that it did. And maybe then somebody could have got away without being noticed. I don't know that, but I'm just saying, if we're to look at all possibilities, right? But then I keep coming back to why all the guilty behavior? It just doesn't make sense. I just want to know why all the undesirable behavior and inaction from Don and Candace and Grandma, if they're truly innocent and have no idea where Summer is or what happened to her. I would look more closely at other people if I could, if they were here on YouTube or online anywhere, presenting themselves like Don and Candace are. Don and Candace are here presenting themselves not very well, and it doesn't make sense to me because it doesn't seem to be that they're here to make things better for Summer. They're here just to make things better for themselves. By making things better for Summer, one would think that would make things better for them, but their priorities are showing, and Summer is not on the top of that list. This all makes sense only when I consider them as guilty in Summer's disappearance or having guilty knowledge, or that they just don't care about Summer. Maybe there's more people involved. If that's the case, that wouldn't surprise me. My top suspect would be Tim Mullen. The TBI states, "We don't know what happened to Summer, and it's extremely frustrating. It's just heartbreaking." TBI spokesperson Leslie Earhart said in a June 2021 press conference. There has been no sign of Summer since. A statewide Amber Alert was issued just after 11 a.m., June 16th in 2021, following an endangered child alert, which was issued June 16th around midnight the night before. The Wells family has a website called findsummerwells.com, run by their self-proclaimed media manager Tim Mullen, who has an awkward and rocky relationship with Summer's parents, though they seem to be on good terms now, as of today, at least Tim and Don. You can find links on the website to report tips to a PI company. Please don't report tips to the PIs. Please report all credible tips, not rumors or speculation you hear from social media, to 1-800-TBI-FIND or email tips to TBI at tipstotbi@tn.gov. Authorities called Summer's disappearance definitely outside the norm. I would love for them to elaborate on why they think it's outside the norm. But honestly, I think it's pretty obvious what they meant by that. I would love to hear what other people think, but in my opinion, outside the norm means exactly what it sounds like it means. Normally, the parents would have prompt and accurate information for the authorities, including photos and age, etc. Also, the parents demanding that this was an abduction from the very start, with no proof or evidence or true reasons as to why they can give us, besides that they just know, rather than thinking she wandered off. And who knows what the boys have told them. Lord only knows what Don and Candace um, told the TBI and what they heard from everybody in the very first few hours of Summer's disappearance. Summer was last seen by her mother, Candace, at her home, and we have heard from law enforcement that Summer was last seen in general walking away from her home by one of her brothers. Most parents typically don't present themselves the way Don and Candace have. For example, Michael Vaughn, missing since July 27th, 2021, just about a month, a little over a month after Summer went missing, little beautiful little 5-year-old boy, and his mother, Brandy Neal, is advocating for him every day, and you see her on here all the time, and she's a hardworking mother, still taking care of her family, her entire family. She still takes care of them and works and does everything that she can, and still does everything that she can for her son, and it's just so sad. And I think it's just really a shame to see the difference. That's just one example. Most parents don't typically present themselves the way Don and Candace have when they have a missing child, let alone a child they truly believe is abducted. Unfortunately, thanks to all the hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of tips by now that have been called in that were not credible due to rumors on YouTube and other social media, there's not going to be any new information released by the TBI. That's me assuming, of course. I don't know if that's really why they're not holding a 2-year press conference or releasing any new information, um, or new video footage of Summer anywhere, and no one's cleared still, and they're not going to give anything. But I would imagine that the rumors and speculation coming in from the internet probably has a lot to do with it. That, and of course, they don't want the guilty party or parties to know what information they have. So if you have credible tips, you call 1-800-TBI-FIND if they're credible. And please do not call in a tip because you had a vision or because you believe you have connected the pieces of the puzzle together through videos you have watched on YouTube. That's great if you have. I'm not knocking anybody. Trust me. I have my own theories too. I'm just saying don't call in a tip unless you actually know it's credible and know it's something that could help in locating Summer. The answers may be here, but TBI clearly does not want the speculation from here, and they're not willing to work with psychics. So they don't want speculation from the internet being reported to them either, because in their words, it's hurting Summer's case by bogging them down. So please don't be part of the problem. Just be responsible and use your best judgment. Please, it's very crucial. We can make a difference if we really pay attention and stay persistent and keep Summer's name and face all over social media and in our local communities and keep our story alive, which you can't do unless you talk about it. We need to keep pushing to get her name across America and the world and never let her get lost in the cracks, as she may already be for some. This can be used for a greater good if we utilize it correctly, but if we're not careful and mindful and responsible, we could be causing interference in Summer's case in real life. And I think there are actually a handful of people who have purposely done just that, called in tips or purposely caused others to call in tips just so that the authorities would take the time to check it out because they thought it would muddy the waters and slow things down and throw some extra obstacles in the way of the truth. And that's disgusting and shameful. But there are more people that know what happened to Summer besides Don and Candace, in my opinion. Definitely grandma would be one. There's got to be someone that knows by now what guilty knowledge Don and Candace have. Like, I don't know, maybe Tim, or maybe even law enforcement. Maybe they just don't have enough proof. Maybe a co-conspirator, someone that helped them. I just think somebody knows something, and maybe it's just a matter of actually proving what they know, who it is, proving what Don and Candace know beyond a reasonable doubt. In other words, gathering hard evidence or having enough proof. Maybe they feel they have too much to lose themselves to be honest for Summer's sake, for her brother's sake, for the whole world that loves and adores Summer's sake, but mostly just for Summer herself. Whoever it is that knows whatever they know about what happened to Summer and where she is or might be needs to talk. And I know there's got to be somebody in that holler, somebody knows something. They have to. There's no way that nobody knows anything. Um, it's an awful shame if they do and they haven't talked and they won't, because they don't want to get in trouble. If anyone in that holler or anywhere knows what happened to Summer or where she is, it shouldn't matter what they have to lose. It's been 2 years. Summer was a little 5-year-old girl when she went missing. Just a couple years earlier, she was only a toddler. She was barely a little kid. She's only 7 years old today, given that she is still with us, which I have to assume that she is until I hear otherwise, even though I have my thoughts and personal feelings, and there are doubts in my mind, but I do try my best to remain hopeful. If there's anyone with knowledge as to why Summer may be missing, call and talk to Ronnie Lawson and tell him what it is, or call TBI. Even if you're risking getting yourself in trouble, if you think you have information that will actually help find Summer, call them. I'm sure you'd be surprised what police will let slide when given crucial information, especially about something this dire. If Frank Light or any of the other RSOs around there, or Fred Hill or Laura or Andy Bernard or Jody or anybody in that holler or in that entire area that has any association with Don and or Candace or Grandma, if any of them have information that could be crucial to understanding what may have happened to Summer, please call and have a talk with the Hawkins County Sheriff or the TBI. I'm sure they would appreciate any credible information. I'm talking about things you may have left out in the first time. I'm sure it wouldn't be easy for the people that have already talked to them, if you really do know more, to go and tell them, oh, I actually know this, but it's the right thing to do. It's your ass or a 7-year-old little girl possibly being rescued, and they would probably go easier on you for being honest if you've been withholding information, if you make some kind of deal with them beforehand and explain why you were afraid to come forward. I keep getting the butterflies whenever I think of June 15th. It's so close. It's already the 13th. It's only in 2 days. According to the TBI, I'm going to get emotional if I keep thinking about it. According to the TBI, Summer was reportedly last seen outside of her home in the Beech Creek community on a Tuesday evening. That's located in Hawkins County. Okay. So Morristown, Greenville, Johnson City, Kingsport, Hawkins County, some of the surrounding areas. State route, Interstate 11 West, there's State Route 58, 81, 26 surrounding there. What was that? 347, that's Beech Creek. Right. The adjacent counties surrounding Hawkins County. Oh, what did I do? All right. I'm not sure what I just did, but Adjacent counties, Scott County, which is in Virginia, and that's north of Hawkins County. Sullivan County is just east of Hawkins County. Washington County is southeast. Greene County is south. Hamblin County and Granger County are southwest, and Hancock County is west. All right. Now, Don was allegedly at work in Morristown at the, I almost said the Ledges. That's a place here in Ohio, right by where I'm from. Not the Ledges, the Meadows. And that was nearly an hour away. But he says he got home in half the time, and his time frame varies on that, which stands out to me. Now, this is sometimes if I space it out a little bit more, there we go. All right. I don't know how well you can see this, but 110 Ben Hill is right up here, right here. And then this is the Meadows, okay? The Meadows is surrounded by Bulls Gap, which is on the way to his house. So he would have passed like near Bulls Gap and Baileyton on the way home, right? Okay. Surrounding the Meadows would be Talbot, Jefferson City, White Pine, Rutledge, Coreyton, Maynardville, Tazewell, Bean Station, Bulls Gap, Greenville, Baileyton, Chuckey, Irwin's over here, all that, okay? It's a 51-minute drive, according to Google Maps, via the fastest route, driving 47.1 miles, and that's via I-81 South, okay? That's if you go down I-81 South, right? So it says if you take I-81 South and US 11 East, it's an hour. So, and it's still 47.1 miles. I thought that was interesting, and you all might have liked to see that. All right. If Candace called Don at 5:30 to tell him Summer was missing, maybe he waited till 6:30 to call it in. Then he didn't get home till about 7 when the cops were rolling in. Just a thought. In a timeline of the case, TBI revealed Summer's mother reports last seeing her on the afternoon of June 15th at their home in the 100 block of Ben Hill Road. In order to preserve the integrity of the investigation, we will not provide additional information regarding the timeline. That's such an interesting statement. They're investigating the same thing that we are. They just have a lot more information than we do. I wonder what they know about 3:30 to 6:30 p.m. on June 15th. Their phones were deleted from that time on, so that's interesting. And I don't even think Hunter got his phone back. I wonder if did Grandma get her phone back? And did they ever get Candace's phone that she told Chris McDonough about that she never gave to the police? Did she ever give them that? Candace Bly, the mother of Summer Wells, spoke to WJHL TV and gave this account. Me and my mother and her, Summer, were planting flowers, which wasn't planting flowers, as we all know, as we have all seen. It was just digging up some cactus plants and repotting them, which this is what the cactus plants looked like outside of Grandma's camper right there. So, I mean, you can see, I don't know if you can see it from your view, if you're watching this on your phone or anything, but there's right there is Chase, the Paw Patrol character. And there's a couple cactuses, there's some weeds. There's a lot of weeds in this one. So, yeah. Candace says, we went in after we got done washing our hands, and Summer got a piece of candy from Grandma, the peppermint. And Summer wanted to go back over and see her brothers, and I said, okay. And I walked her all the way over to the porch. Now, it stands out to me that she says all the way over, like it was so far, when in reality, it's not. And I doubt she really walked Summer all the way over there. Why would she? Most people probably wouldn't. Candace would have been able to see Summer get into the house from where she was. There was no need for her to walk Summer all the way to the door, but she made sure that we all knew that she did, allegedly. Candace's statement continues. And I watched her walk into the kitchen where the boys were watching TV. I told the boys, I said, watch Summer, I'll be back. And within 2 minutes, I came back and I asked the boys where their sister was. And they said, she went downstairs, Mom, to play with her toys in the playroom. I said, okay. And I yelled downstairs for her a couple times and I didn't get no answer, which was unusual because usually she always answers me. And so I went down there to check and she was nowhere in sight. Okay, the way Candace says, and she was nowhere in sight, is so off putting to me. It always has been since the first time I ever heard it. Like it's hard to believe her. Another example of what I mean by that, by their concern for Summer, feels disingenuous to me. You know what I mean? Like that's just another example of why I think their concern for Summer feels disingenuous because it's like, she was just nowhere. Like, really? It's like she was just dumbfounded. Like how Candace says, I think one of them might have snatched her when talking about the tree trimmers. It's just so nonchalant and emotionless. Like, oh, I don't know. I don't know what happened. Like, really? Okay. No concern in her voice, no urgency. She just acts baffled. Even when she talks about the sex offender that lives within 8 minutes walking distance from their house. There doesn't feel to be a real sense of concern or any emotion from Candace for Summer. She's like, oh yeah, I even found out there's a sex offender that lives right there. It's like, wow, okay. You really sure seem concerned about that, not? Candace Bly wrote the following statement on the family's website. We come home and then me and my mom and the boys were in watching YouTube like they always do. So in other words, the boys weren't paying attention to what was going on around them. Candace says, my mom says, let's rearrange and plant the flowers. She goes, well, we know the boys aren't going to help us. I know Summer will. So I yelled for Summer. She was in the house with the boys. She comes out and she was planting flowers with us. When Summer came out to plant flowers with Grandma and Candace, was this when the boys really saw Summer walking away from the home? Is that when they saw her last? Maybe the boys never did see Summer walking down to the basement to play with her toys. Or maybe they did, and one of them was down there and saw her walk out the door. She could have came upstairs and walked out the front door. Maybe one of them saw her do that, and maybe the other ones weren't even paying attention. Who knows? Candace sure wanted to make it sound like they weren't paying attention, right? We don't know for sure what all Summer's brothers have seen. Maybe Candace says one of her boys said whatever they said, but that doesn't mean that I believe her 100 on it. You want to know why? Because she already tried to put it on the boys. And Don was the one that made it very clear to me that Candace saying the boys were the last to see Summer is a way of putting the responsibility of who was supposed to be keeping Summer safe on the boys, because Candace entrusted them, trying to make Candace look less guilty because she entrusted the boys, so they were supposed to be watching her, which actually makes her look worse in my opinion, because it makes it look like, why would you try and pin it on the boys unless you actually did do something and it was your fault and you know it? I don't know. That's super messed up. Candace should have been making sure all of her children were safe, not halfway attempting to have her children watch themselves while she runs off and does God only knows what, or takes a nap with grandma, or goes on a walk or a run, or whatever she was doing. The reason I say that about Dawn is because Dawn made sure to emphasize several times that the boys were last to see Summer by saying things like, "You guys forget the last person to see Summer was our boys." I've heard him say that on the farm. I've heard him say it other places. He has repeated a variation of that very statement several times. The law says Summer was last seen outside her home, not walking inside by her mother. They say she was last seen by one of her brothers outside, walking away from her home. They don't say what Candace says. Did something happen while they were planting flowers? And that's why they only got as far as a couple cactus plants? There are times children get abducted, okay, from good, loving families that took their eyes off their child for mere moments before their child was taken by a complete stranger. It happens. It's happened, and it will unfortunately continue to happen. However, I do not believe for a second that this was the problem in Summer's case, and for all the children that it is the case, I pray for them. I think it's so highly unlikely that if Summer was abducted, that Dawn, Candace, and her grandma doesn't have involvement or at the very least guilty knowledge and things that are intentionally being kept from the law so as not to sacrifice personal freedoms, which is incredibly selfish and very much a shame for Summer. The flowers were put in planters next to Grandma Candy's camper, with Summer handling some of the tasks. Only they weren't flowers, they were cacti. And what could Summer handle task-wise as far as transplanting cactus goes? Have you ever been stuck by a cactus? I mean, it's pretty simple. You dig it up, you pick it up out of the dirt, and you place it in new dirt and compact it back down and give it a little water if it needs a splash or two. Just be careful because it will stick you. But it doesn't take much longer to do it than it takes to say it. Summer put all the rocks on top and put Chase from Paw Patrol in there in the pot. She did all the rocks herself. We went into Grandma's after we were done. She asked Grandma for a piece of candy. Grandma gave her a piece of candy. She told me she wanted to go back over with her brothers. So I literally walked her halfway between the camper and the house. So sometimes she says she walks her all the way to the door, and sometimes she says she walks her halfway, but she probably didn't walk her all the way, in my opinion. I watched her go in the door and I could see her brothers at the kitchen table. When she went in, I walked over and yelled at the boys. I said, "Watch Summer, I'll be right back. I've got to fix Mom's knee brace." Now, maybe she did walk Summer all the way to the door. If she actually left the property, maybe she went to fix Grandma's knee brace, but she actually left and went somewhere else and was gone for a while. So she asked the boys to watch Summer. Maybe, I don't know. Candace says, "I was standing right there at the camper. What was wrong with Grandma that she couldn't fix her own knee brace?" I would imagine that wouldn't be hard to do yourself, but I don't know. Maybe she did need help with it. Just sounds like something made up as an excuse to go over there for a little bit or to leave the house. She was probably gone longer than 2 minutes, in my opinion. Candace says, "I was over there fixing it. Literally, you can see my house from the camper door. Summer did not walk back out that front door." Don said in the very first few days of Summer being reported missing that Summer went out the basement door, which was unlocked, and we haven't seen her since. He had his son with him when he said that, so maybe his son did see Summer go out of the basement door, and maybe the reason he doesn't want people to know that Summer's scent was followed down the driveway and wants people to think it was followed down the dog trail is because he doesn't want people to think, well, if Candace really came back out after only 2 minutes, then how did she not see Summer coming out of the basement door? Because that doesn't make sense. But maybe that's why Don's like, whoa, she went down the dog trail. That's why Candace didn't see her, even though the cops said it was the driveway. But whatever. Um, None of them, including her mother, who you'd think would have ran into Summer outside if things happened as quick as she says they did, none of them have seen her since. It seems to me as though Don wants us to believe right off the bat that Summer was put into a car and drove either not too far away or far away from there, depending on which day you listen to him on, because he does say both. Put into a car regardless and taken out of the immediate area. Pruitt says they believe Summer is close by. I think that's the biggest clue they've given us all along about what they think happened to Summer, and I don't think it's good, but it tells me they have something they're working with. I don't think they are happy with any of the information that they have, as it clearly isn't sufficient enough to locate Summer or to rescue her or ensure her safety, to bring her any justice. I think it says a lot that the TBI expresses publicly, with the very little they choose to say, that nobody is more frustrated than they are, and that nobody wants to find Summer more than they do. Let that sink in. And Summer's parents weren't there for, but if they had been there, wouldn't they have been offended? Because they should have said nobody wants Summer found more than her parents. But they weren't even there to hear it. And clearly, TBI realizes exactly what they said because they said it. And they probably said exactly what they meant, my opinion. Candace says, so I went down there to the basement, aka dungeon, and I searched. I looked everywhere I could. Then I went through the house and I kept calling for her, yelling for her, everything. I came out here outside, yelling for her, everything else, and she was nowhere. So I called Don because I was freaking out. Okay. I said, I can't find Summer. Get home now. He was like, call 911. Now, this has always stood out to me, that there was never any talk of any in between conversation here, as in Don asking her when she initially called him. Don's not like, oh my gosh, what happened? Blah, blah, blah. Trying to help her through it, help her think of ideas, places to look, asking, well, what did the boys say? He doesn't, there's none of that. He's just immediately like, call 911. Is like he already knew something was about to happen, as he's stated many times and hinted at many times, like the picture of him crying holding Summer, where he says he just knew something was about to happen. That's why he was crying. Red flag, huge red flag. So I don't know why they didn't try to figure it out first over the phone, what really was going on for sure, before he just jumps straight to telling Candace, call 911. Just like how Candace jumped straight to freaking out and calling Don to say Summer was missing before even looking in the trees or down the hill. And it doesn't sound like Don asked her if she had, or asked what was going on, or anything to try to help her figure it out over the phone, like I said. It seems like Don just knew something was going to happen to Summer, like he says in his own words, which is really weird. Candace said, so I dropped my phone because I had to run over and get mom's phone and dial 911 because her AT&T phone is the only one that works out here to call 911. So I called them and told them what's going on. I wonder whose phone Candace was using to upload photos to Facebook on June 15th, which uploaded at about 6 p.m., right about a half hour before Summer was reported missing. With what very much so appears to be Summer in a purple dress in the corner of the image. The image was taken down very shortly after. I want to know why she took it down, and was that Summer? It's my opinion, because we all know any phone can call 911, that Candace had a phone that she did not want law enforcement to know about, so she had to use a different phone to call 911. If she even did call 911, I don't know if we will ever hear the 911 call or calls. Before the cops even came out, I went down and told my neighbors, Summer is missing. Will you help me look? Just in case she did wander off. But I knew in the back of my mind, she's never wandered off. She never went nowhere without me. Right. She'll ask me to do something before she even goes and does it. If Summer did wander off that far that someone on the road could have seen her and taken her, then I think she would have had to have been gone away from her house longer than her mom is even saying she was in the camper for. Candace says, and she's scared, Summer is, to go in the woods herself because we've told her time and time again because of the bears and snakes. I doubt they had to tell Summer time and time again because if they did, that would mean she was going out there by herself a lot if they had to tell her time and time again. Because why else would they have to keep telling her unless she was going out there by herself a lot? So she either did go out by herself a lot, which I think is the case, or she didn't, and Candace is just saying that because she wants to sound like that hypervigilant helicopter mom that would never bring danger upon her children. Or maybe Summer did go out in the woods a lot by herself, and Candace did warn her about the bears and snakes, but maybe Summer wasn't scared of them. Maybe it was worth it to Summer. Maybe it was her escape to get away from people, to get away from her house. Maybe that was her way of escaping, to just go out in the woods. You never know. Maybe she was just a curious, normal 5-year-old girl. Candace goes on. I sent the older boys down through the creek. If they've got a walkie-talkie and their buck knife, they can go down through there. But doesn't Don say he saw all 3 of his boys down there when he pulled up? I sent all them searching and I went out in my mom's truck and went all the way down by the church. Then went all the way down the other way and I didn't see nobody even out and about. This tells me that Candace thought Summer wandered off and got away, and Candace was gone and not paying attention to any of her kids, definitely not Summer, for way longer than 2 minutes, like she says, and that they were not initially thinking abduction because Candace would not have left her 2 oldest sons to fend for themselves. And where was Waylon? Did he come with Candace? Did he stay up on the hill with Grandma? Did Candace really think the boys would be fine with a buck knife and a walkie-talkie if there was an active predator kidnapping children? Candace says, then I went all the way back in the holler as far as the truck can go, and I didn't see nothing back in there either. When I was coming back up out of the holler, the cops were coming up in my driveway, so I just followed them up in here. I don't recall if Don was here before the police got here or if he was here at the same time they showed up. Interesting. How very interesting. Because pretty sure Don says that they were on the phone the whole time and Candace was getting back after going up and checking all through the holler at the same time that he was at about 7, right when the police were arriving, which was right when Don was arriving. Because Don doesn't know right where Candace was when the police got there either, according to him, but they both say they were in vehicles arriving back to the hill just as police were arriving, and Don was on the phone with Candace this whole time, allegedly, so he should have known right where Candace was and what she was doing initially. There's just certain things that just conflict and don't make sense. Candace says, we searched everywhere we could possibly search, which I don't think that's true because I think there's a lot of places they could have searched that they didn't. They were out here for 3 or 4 days straight searching 5,000 square acres. They searched all this mountainous terrain all the way down through here. They smile to put on a good show, but other than that, I know they're really upset. They ask me every day, is Summer coming home today? About her boys. I can't answer that. I don't know. I find myself sitting out here until midnight or 1 o'clock at night, just hoping maybe that whoever took Summer or whatever happened, she'll come back wandering back up the driveway to us. But you left, Candace. You're gone. And more than once, more than twice. You've left a lot. So that's not true. This one is definitely outside the norm. Typically, we have some idea where the case is headed and what might have happened. Tennessee Bureau of Investigation spokesperson Leslie Earhart said in a June 24th, 2021 press conference. In this situation, despite exploring all avenues, the circumstances leading to Summer's disappearance remain unclear. No one is more frustrated than we are. If we develop information which will lead to locating Summer, we will share that with you. The family's website says, Summer Wells disappeared from her home on June 15th, 2021. Her family was upstairs and at the front of the home. Not her brothers, but her family, it says. Summer had gone indoors to the basement, where the basement door is located at the back of the house. Candace said authorities hope Summer is not dead, but they honestly just don't know. That would be so hard for a mother to say those words. Sheriff Ronnie Lawson asked the general public to stay out of the woods during searches, but they did ask people to search their own property if they live in the area. I wish they could have searched all of everyone in the entire area's properties themselves. They said the number one goal here was finding Summer. They described searching over 3,000 acres, including of rugged and mountainous terrain, for Summer. Summer's father, Donald Wells, said his wife passed a lie detector test, but his wife once claimed of him, I am afraid for my children and myself. That was when within 8 months of Summer being reported missing, her saying he drinks and throws things and she fears for her and her children. Fears for what, their lives? It's pretty sad and concerning. Summer's father, Don Wells, told WJHL that Summer's mother, Candace Bly, passed the lie detector test. My wife just left the district attorney's office with the FBI and she passed her lie detector test, says Don. Don Wells told the television station. Then they told her to hurry down to the command center because they just got a tip. So we're freaking out right now, Don said. I wonder what the tip was. I bet they were freaking out. They never talked about that, though, that I can remember, just like they never bring up the potential sighting in Georgia. Very interesting. You think they would be totally tore up over that. According to the station, documents from the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office show Donald Wells was arrested on domestic assault charges in October of 2020, I'm sorry. He was charged with domestic assault, possession of a handgun while under the influence, and unlawful possession of a weapon in regards to an incident with Summer's mother, Candace Bly. She then sought a protective order against Don that read, in part, I am afraid for my children and myself. My mother fears he is going to hurt her because she is staying in her camper on the property. According to the television station WJHL, which said she later asked for it to be dismissed. Donald Wells ended up pleading guilty in April 2021 to possession of a handgun while under the influence, the station reported. The other charges were dismissed. TBI confirmed that both parents were questioned. We don't know what questions were asked. We know Don has told us that initially TBI asked Candace what she did with Summer or something along those lines, and Candace flipped out and said, I would never hurt my daughter or something like that. Then Ellie allegedly said, okay, that's the answer we were looking for. And that was on June 15th. Who knows if they actually believed her or what they were really thinking. The parents' 3 sons, Summer's brothers, were placed in the custody of Tennessee Department of Children's Services, Department of Child Protective Services after Summer's disappearance, according to Fox News, which added that Candace Bly said the boys were removed for reasons not related to Summer vanishing, although CPS is involved in Summer's disappearance. We also know that the CPS is they're involved in her case, is what I was trying to say, not in her disappearance. Don't take that the wrong way. Oh my gosh. The family's social media and cell phones were searched, authorities revealed. They have found no evidence that Summer was abducted. Don says both of their phones were deleted from 3:30 p.m. on June 15th, 2021. But what about the other phone that Candace had that she never gave to law enforcement? I want to know about that. And what about Grandma's phone? I hope they took hers too. Whatever phone Candace did not use that she had, that she didn't use to call 911 on, did they get that phone? That really bothers me. I'm sorry I keep bringing it up, but I really want to know. Why wouldn't they have all their phones the very first night? Did they just not know about them because Candace never told them? Why would she hide it? Did she end up telling them? Someone should really ask her about that. I don't remember hearing her ever say. And maybe she has, maybe she hasn't. I don't know. TBI says they found no evidence Summer was abducted, as we've said 1,000 times, despite Candace's beliefs about that. Don was the one I thought was pushing abduction so much more so than Candace, in my opinion. But in their timeline, TBI revealed the extent of the searches, answering the question, have you searched the home and property around the residence? They answered yes, more than once, including the basement, crawl space, all vehicles, outbuildings, barrels, and other items located on the property. Additionally, canine teams specializing in a variety of search methods have also been utilized. This tells me that they were likely cadaver canines and live scent dogs. I know a lot of people doubt that they used cadaver dogs, but I've always been under the impression that they have. And if they didn't, I would be really appalled and shocked. TBI also answered some common questions, including, have you searched the phones and computers belonging to the Wells family? As we all know, yes. Working alongside the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office and the FBI, numerous subpoenas and search warrants have been obtained, resulting in any available digital evidence being collected, searched, and documented. This included social media accounts, TBI wrote. I wonder if they saw everything that went on between Candace and Hunter, because we all know there was some inappropriate shit going on there. And she should be held accountable for that. If there's any evidence of her being inappropriate with him involving alcohol, drugs, or anything else, Allie should be too, which I suppose in a way she kind of is because she lost custody of her kids. Other questions from the public include, have you searched the flower bed? TBI says there was not a flower bed. Summer's mother and grandmother stated that she was planting flowers with them shortly before she was last seen. The flowers were planted in pots, and yes, the pots were examined. So if Summer was planting flowers, where are the flowers? Because Candace knows the difference between flowers and cacti, or is that just a made up story? If it was shortly before she went missing, why not include whatever they were doing, the very last thing that they did right before she last saw Summer? Not the first thing they did when they got home and finished putting the groceries away. What were they doing directly before that 2 minutes that she walked away that Summer went in? Because there's no way it took them that long to transplant a few cactus. There's just no way, because it doesn't add up in the timeline that if they were only doing that for 30, 40, or 50 minutes, like Candace says, right after putting groceries away, then what were they doing in the in-between time and for the rest of that whole time? Or was Summer missing for a lot longer before they called 911 and they were actually looking or doing whatever, covering up, concealing, destroying, who knows, for a long time, maybe a couple hours before they even called 911? And for some reason, they don't want us to know that because it's not what they told law enforcement, I would imagine. They told the law they were searching for about 10 minutes. Candace told Dotson 20 minutes. Did they find her and she wasn't well or worse and they had to hide her so they didn't go to prison and lose custody of their other children because it would have been so obvious that Summer wasn't being watched and Candace would have been held responsible? Have to wonder. Their plan didn't really work very well, and I believe it won't. That's just my opinion. Another question says, have you searched waterways in the area? And TBI says yes. Dive teams were brought in to search bodies of water in the area. Have you conducted aerial searches? Yes, numerous searches from the air have been completed, especially during the first few weeks after Summer went missing. Additionally, drones were used to map the area and to pinpoint bodies of water as well as any other points of interest. So the water was searched, the ground was searched very, very thoroughly within a mile or so radius of Summer's home, and roadblocks were set up. There's been nothing to lead investigators to believe that Summer's been abducted or trafficked out of the area. So, what about the fact that Summer's parents both allegedly are begging the cops to listen to them as they are trying to tell them that Summer has been abducted and they feel like nobody is listening to them? Well, if that's the case, then why aren't they at the police station every day begging them for more help, more searches, more information, and reaching out for more resources to try to help them find their abducted child, Summer, if they really so strongly believe that's what happened? TBI does not mention the fact that Don or Candace thinks Summer was abducted. That seems to have no bearing on what they think or say. That tells me there is a reason for that, and it's because they know something we don't know. Just like why they upgraded to an Amber Alert, because it was the most severe alert they could issue, so they issued it because Summer was in such imminent danger of serious bodily harm or death that they had to issue that right away the very next morning. What did they learn that night of June 15th, 2021 that became so very imminent? I understand the terrain is steep and mountainous, but I don't think that alone would allow the Amber Alert without the criteria being in steep terrain. Then it became an Amber Alert because they found out something else between midnight and 10 a.m., 11 a.m. the next day. They found out some stuff that made them think she was in serious trouble. Um, and there was no criteria that was met as far as a known abductor or a vehicle description because the red truck hadn't happened yet at this point. That wasn't for a while yet, a few more weeks yet. So that was not it because it would have had to have been something very drastic for them to be able to issue an Amber Alert without meeting that typical standard criteria. What was the information they had uncovered? If we only knew, right? Will additional searches be conducted? TBI says investigators will continue to search points of interest as they are developed, as well as follow up on all tips regarding Summer's whereabouts. I really hope they continue to do more searches. I really, really pray for that. Have you collected and reviewed surveillance video? Yes, we've collected surveillance photos and videos from a variety of locations. What is so interesting to me is that they haven't publicly shared any of that footage containing Summer with the public. So, did any of it contain Summer? We don't know. Maybe not. There wouldn't necessarily be an arrest for lying to police right away if that was part of an investigative strategy to find Summer, because finding Summer is the most important thing. TBI says, additionally, the entire area was canvassed in an effort to locate any residential cameras that were not voluntarily reported. And I am so glad for that because I cannot believe there would actually be people that would not surrender that information in the case of a missing 5-year-old girl. That's crazy. I hope they actually got everything from everyone. TBI continues, please keep in mind that the Beech Creek area of Hawkins County is very rural with few businesses and no traffic cameras, unfortunately. The TBI is seeking a truck in connection with the case. Um, An individual who travels through the area regularly as part of his job stated that he recalls possibly seeing a 98 to 2000 maroon or red Toyota Tacoma with a full bed ladder rack and white buckets in the truck bed, not like the one depicted on findsummerwells.com with wood on top and Euro tail lights. That doesn't match the description at all. The individual stated that the truck might have been parked in the area of Beech Creek Road and Ben Hill Road in the late afternoon to early evening on either Monday, June 14th or Tuesday, June 15th, the agency wrote. If they were possibly parked there the night before Summer went missing, it would sure be interesting to hear what they saw that night or what the person that was driving that saw the red truck saw that night. Um, or even if they were there on the fifth on June 15th, it would be even more interesting, or to hear what maybe they saw or who they saw coming in and out. Both of them, the person that saw the red truck and the person that was driving the red truck. And I feel like maybe the person that was driving the red truck might have even been Don or somebody that worked with Don, and that hence the white buckets in the back in the ladder rack. And maybe that's why Tim Mullen depicted a red truck with wood on top, because that made it look like it wasn't somebody that could be working with Don. You know what I'm saying? I don't like that at all. It's very misleading and it's gross. Um, That vehicle was not captured on surveillance cameras. Interesting. In an effort to cover all bases and identify the driver, the TBI, in agreement with the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office and the FBI, released the vehicle description. Our hope was that the individual might have information that could help in the investigation. They're really fishing for someone to have something helpful for them, and that scares me a little bit, but also I can totally see why at that stage in the very beginning they would push this, as they are getting nothing helpful from Summer's parents, which is why they say no one is more frustrated than they are, in my opinion, rather than saying no one is more frustrated than her family, which is sad. The driver of the red truck still hasn't come forward, nor have the hundreds of vehicles matching the description. Hundreds. How could you not be aware that the TBI is looking for your truck? You'd really have to be not paying attention. The TBI added, it has been brought to our attention that the photo of what the truck may look like has been circulating on social media, along with claims that the vehicle has been located. This is not accurate. There were claims made by several people, including Robin Lane from the church, because someone told her that, and Tim was circulating the photo of the incorrect red truck and still has it up to this day on findsummerwells.com, along with a place to send tips to the PI company instead of to law enforcement. That all needs fixed. TBI continues. Additionally, the photo was not released by law enforcement, as weren't the age progressions, um, or, a lot of information that's out. We continue to urge the public only to share information from official sources, such as the TBINewsroom.com, missingkids.org, local news sites, things like that. Dr. Phil explored what the parents know with a body language expert. Since the night of June 15th, 2021, there have been no answers as to where Candace and Don's 5-year-old daughter, Summer, could be, Dr. Phil's website says. The parents say they thought they were doing the right thing by requesting the public's help to find their little girl, but it backfired. Instead, the couple say they became targets of online bullies who accused them of involvement in the disappearance of their missing child. Now, Don has since admitted that he understands why people hated on them so much, because they put themselves in that position, and he even realizes that with their behavior on social media. Then, since saying that, he has said some of the most vile things on here in Summer's name. In part two, Don and Candace speak out in their exclusive first national TV interview. Dr. Phil digs deeper into the story to discover whether there is any new information that might help solve the mystery of Summer's disappearance. Dr. Phil asks Summer Wells' parents how she went missing. Body language experts analyzed comments the parents gave to Dr. Phil. She had an emotional breakdown when asked about the Cornbread Mafia, described as an organized crime syndicate in the southern United States by WJHL TV, which reported that the experts don't think the parents harmed Summer, but that Bly might know more information than she has revealed. How very interesting. They're the experts, right? I don't agree with everything they say, or really everything anyone says for that matter, but I do believe that they're right. I believe Candace is holding back crucial information. I believe Donna is too. And I believe Grandma is as well. I think it's a crying shame that none of them will speak up for Summer because they're too worried about themselves. That's a disgrace, and it's time for change. It's time for a revolution in that family, in my opinion. And it shouldn't take Summer going missing and possibly being deceased or held hostage somewhere, hidden from the world, where she can't be herself and live her life freely and has to go through God only knows what kind of pain and mental and emotional torture to save her family's legacy. Now the boys have the chance to make the Wells name good again. They are given the opportunity to make their family shine by being exactly who they are and living their best lives, which I hope they are. Whatever their last names are now, if they're different or if it's still Wells, they still come from that bloodline, and now they're changing the world for their own next generations. And I think that's beautiful. But it's not fair that Summer has to miss out on her whole life in order for that to happen. All of these children's parents, Don and Candace, should have made sure that happened for them already on their own, like most parents do for their children in one way or another. You're supposed to give your children a future, whatever you have to do that, and whether anyone knows or realizes that's what you're doing or not. You don't ask for praise for it. It's just what you do as parents. You give your children something to always fall back on and a foundation for their life. That for any of their children, in my opinion, or even for themselves. And that's really sad. All right. I wanted to, it's probably going to take me to an ad. I wanted to, yep, see if I could find something real quick to show y'all. Searched all these cars, right? I can't zoom in any further. It won't let me, but yeah, look at all these junk cars and all this junk back here. This is down Simpson Road. Imagine, look at that. See all those cars? Imagine what else is down in there in those trees. I mean, seriously. There's probably so much stuff hidden down in here. And there's the bus, Summer's house there. There's Beech Creek, Ben Hills right here. All right. They thought it could hide our Appalachia princess, but we're here to find you, Appalachia princess. Can't look away, Appalachia princess. Too beautiful to say, Appalachia princess. Can't shut me up, I will be here fighting. Can't brush me off with thunder and lightning. She goes, we follow, not scared of no hollow. We want you to stay, Appalachian princess. But you got gone away, Appalachian princess. We'll figure out a way to get you out of this mess. They thought we could hire Appalachian princess, but we're here to find you, Appalachian princess. Can't look away, Appalachian princess. Too beautiful to stay, Appalachian princess. Really appreciate you all being here for an hour and 40 minutes with me um, on my channel for Summer Moon Utah Wells. Still an active Amber Alert for her, and us because they know the suspects are right there listening and seeing everything. Um, I really hope everybody has a great day, and just know um, there's a lot of people that come in here that, you know, I really love and appreciate. My chicken nugget, I call him Chicken Nugget, my 2-year-old. He just turned 2. He he has a lot of he has some issues that we're dealing with, and he's a lot to handle, and he doesn't ever go to a babysitter. He's never been to one. He's never been anywhere without me or to anyone but me, and it's going to probably remain that way for a very long time. And I don't get a lot of time to do anything but listen. At night when he's sleeping, after like 9 or so at night, usually I have time to where I can type some stuff up, put some stuff together. I haven't had much of that lately because he's been having a lot of issues lately. So I want you to know I love being here with you guys. I love doing this for Summer and for other children too. Um, but I just unfortunately don't always have enough. There's just not time. I just don't have it sometimes. But any free time that I get, this is what I'm doing. Um, I so deeply want Summer found. There's a damaged part of me that obsesses over it because I feel this strong love for Summer, and I feel it's so wrong what's ever happened to her. And I just want to stick up for her and give her a voice. And I have a lot of reasons for that. But there's a very strong, shining, bright light part of me that's very strong and not damaged. And that part of me also wants the same things. And it's very compassionate for Summer. And that's my whole being. My whole being just wants Summer found. And I know there's a lot of people that feel the same way that come into my chats. And I want my mods to know that I have a real love for you. Like, I don't have like real life friends and stuff. Like, you guys are my friends. And I really do have love for you, and I appreciate you a lot. And I want you all to know that. And you matter, and you do make a difference. And I don't care what anyone tells you. Keep your crown on straight, stand your ground, and say what you mean, say it like you mean it, and don't ever back down from what you think is right. Summer, I love you. I'll always be here for you, as will an entire community of people that you have behind you. Can't stop, won't stop. No summer, no peace. Love you guys. Have a nice day.